Level 1. The slight dip. Before we get to the careers that collapsed, the talent that evaporated, the players who went from Ballon d'Or winners and Golden Boy prodigies to cautionary tales, we start with the ones who almost escaped. They still declined. The curse still touched them. But their falls were measured in degrees, not disasters. Fabio Cannavaro lifted the 2006 Ballon d'Or at 33 years old. A defender, the first since Franz Beckenbauer 2 decades earlier. Italy had just won the World Cup in Berlin, and Cannavaro had been the anchor, marshalling a backline that conceded just 2 goals in 7 matches, one an own goal, the other a penalty. At Real Madrid, he won 2 La Liga titles. But the return to Juventus in 2009 revealed the decline had accelerated. The club finished 7th, their worst Serie A result in a decade, and his contract wasn't renewed. He moved to Al Ahly in Dubai, played 16 matches, and retired in 2011 at 38 after a knee injury. Not the graceful exit he might have hoped for, but not a disaster either. The decline was measured in seasons, not weeks. Winning the Ballon d'Or at age 33 leaves little room for improvement. Luka Modric presents a similar trajectory, stretched even longer. He won the Ballon d'Or in 2018, also aged 33, finally breaking the decade-long Messi-Ronaldo stranglehold after dragging Croatia to a World Cup final and lifting a 3rd consecutive Champions League with Real Madrid. In the years since, the role shifted. From undisputed starter to rotation option. The legs slowed, even though still fast for his age. By 2025, at 39, he'd left Real Madrid for AC Milan, a step down from the Spanish giant. He took a significant pay cut to chase one final World Cup and prove he could still influence games in Serie A. When Modric plays now, there are still moments. A pass that splits a defense, a decision that changes a game. The peak is gone, but the intelligence remains. Level 2. The soft fade. Karim Benzema collected the 2022 Ballon d'Or after the most complete season of his career. 34 years old, 44 goals, the Champions League trophy secured with clutch performances against PSG, Chelsea, and Manchester City. For over a decade, he'd been the man standing next to Cristiano Ronaldo. Finally, the spotlight belonged to him alone. 2 years later, he's in Saudi Arabia with Al Ittihad. In 2024-25, he captained them to a league and cup double, scoring 21 goals in 28 league matches, winning Player of the Season, and passing the 500-goal career milestone. The competition level was lower, but he was still performing, still winning. Then came the 2025-26 season. Recurring muscle injuries. 4 goals in 7 starts. The defending champion sitting in 9th place by December, 15 points off the top. The body that carried him to the Ballon d'Or is betraying him in real time. Then there's Rodri. And this one should terrify anyone who believes in the curse. He claimed the 2024 Ballon d'Or in October after anchoring Manchester City's treble and lifting the European Championship with Spain. The complete midfielder, the metronome, the player Pep Guardiola built his entire system around. When Rodri played, City won. When he didn't, they looked mortal. He'd already torn his ACL in September. He accepted football's highest individual honor while his knee was being reconstructed. The ceremony should have been a coronation. Instead, it felt like a warning. He returned in May 2025, coming off the bench against Bournemouth to a rapturous reception. But the comeback lasted 7 minutes before the next setback. A fresh injury at the Club World Cup forced him off in extra time against Al Hilal. In October, a hamstring problem saw him subbed after just 20 minutes against Brentford. He sat on the pitch shaking his head, waiting for the medical staff, knowing his body had failed him again. Over 18 months of stop-start recovery, Guardiola admits he's suffering. The sharpness that made him irreplaceable has flickered rather than burned. By late December, he was only just returning to the squad, his fifth attempted comeback. The curse struck before he even touched the trophy. Whether he escapes it remains football's most compelling open question. Level 3. The unfulfilled promise. Now we cross into different territory. These are Golden Boy winners, players identified as the single best young talent in European football, who never came close to Ballon d'Or contention. Somewhere between the promise and the peak, something broke. João Félix cost Atletico Madrid €126 million in 2019. He was 19 years old, fresh off a Golden Boy award, arriving with the expectation that he would become the next transcendent talent in European football. The trajectory that followed defied the investment. 4 clubs in 2 years: Atletico, Chelsea twice, Barcelona, AC Milan, none willing to commit long-term. The talent appeared in moments. Consistency remained elusive. By 2025-26, Félix moved to Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia for a fraction of what Atletico had paid. The strange thing is, he's thriving there. 11 goals in 9 league matches, a hat-trick on his debut, playing alongside Cristiano Ronaldo for a team chasing their first title in years. The talent that cost €126 million finally has space to breathe, just not where anyone expected to see it. Whether this represents redemption or a different kind of decline depends on how you measure success. The Ballon d'Or, at least, was never close. Renato Sanchez took the 2016 Golden Boy after winning the European Championship with Portugal at 18 years old. He started the final against France, was named Young Player of the Tournament, and Bayern Munich paid €35 million to secure the next great Portuguese midfielder. What followed was a case study in what pressure can do to a young body and mind. He couldn't break into the Bayern squad. A loan to Swansea produced the infamous moment where he passed the ball to an advertising board, a clip that became shorthand for his struggles. He rebuilt some reputation at Lille, was good enough to earn a €15 million move to PSG, then injuries dismantled him again. Hamstring after hamstring. By 2025, at 28, he's on loan at Panathinaikos in the Greek Super League, a long way from the teenager who lifted the European Championship trophy. Anderson arrived at Manchester United in 2007 for €30 million and won the Golden Boy in 2008. He was 20, had converted a penalty in a Champions League final shootout in Moscow, and carried comparisons to a young Ronaldinho. Both raised in Porto Alegre, both with that same ability to glide past defenders. He won 4 Premier League titles at Old Trafford. On paper, successful. In reality, a career consumed by injury cycles and questions about fitness. He played more than 20 league games in just 1 season, his first. Knee problems, hamstring issues. Every time he returned, he looked a step behind. When Ferguson retired in 2013, the protection he'd enjoyed disappeared with him. Neither Moyes nor Van Gaal saw Anderson in their plans. He returned to Brazil in 2015 with Internacional, and the club was relegated for the first time in 107 years. A loan to Coritiba ended in another relegation. He drifted to Turkey's second division and retired in 2020, aged 32. Former teammates said Anderson had the talent to be the best midfielder in the world. Ferguson's brother, who scouted him, reportedly said he could be better than Rooney. The talent existed. The body and the circumstances never aligned. Level 4. The short peak. Ricardo Kaká won the 2007 Ballon d'Or after the most devastating individual season in modern Champions League history. AC Milan rode his brilliance to the European trophy, and Kaká was untouchable. the elegance, the acceleration, the ability to glide past defenders as if they existed in a different dimension of time. When he ran at you, you were already beaten, you just didn't know it yet. Real Madrid paid €67 million for him in 2009. He was 27 years old, supposedly entering his prime. What arrived in the Spanish capital was a player already compromised by knee problems, struggling to find the explosive burst that had made him unique. The Galacticos project swallowed him. He made 120 appearances across 4 seasons, scored 29 goals, but the player who had humiliated Manchester United at Old Trafford was gone. The body remembered what it could do. The knees refused to cooperate. A return to Milan couldn't resurrect it. A move to MLS provided a dignified conclusion. Kaká's career wasn't short. He played professionally until 2017. But the peak, that period of genuine world supremacy, lasted perhaps 3 seasons before the transfer, and the injuries compressed what should have been a decade of dominance into a far briefer window. He won 1 Ballon d'Or. He should have won 3. Mario Götze scored the winning goal in a World Cup final, against Argentina, with Messi watching. The 22-year-old who had won the Golden Boy 3 years earlier came off the bench and volleyed Germany to glory with a chest and strike that will be replayed for as long as football exists. That was supposed to be the beginning. Instead, it was the peak. A metabolic disorder, later identified as myopathy, a condition affecting muscle fibers and energy metabolism, robbed him of the athleticism that had made him special. At Bayern Munich and then back at Borussia Dortmund, he became a part-time player, managing a condition that wouldn't allow him to perform consistently at the highest level. The boy who scored the World Cup winner couldn't get a game. He's rebuilt a career at Eintracht Frankfurt in recent years, proving his technical quality remains intact. But the trajectory from World Cup hero at 22 to squad rotation player by 25 should have been impossible. His body made it inevitable. Anthony Martial announced himself on his Manchester United debut in 2015 with a solo goal against Liverpool that announced the arrival of something special. He was 19. He'd cost £36 million, a world record for a teenager. And for a moment, as he cut inside and curled the ball past Simon Mignolet, he looked like he might be worth every penny and more. He won the Golden Boy that year. For moments across the following 9 seasons, particularly his debut campaign under Louis van Gaal and a stretch as the central striker under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, where he scored 23 goals, he looked like a player who could genuinely reach the elite level. Quick, direct, capable of moments that made you believe. The consistency never arrived. Injuries, questions about application, a struggle to maintain fitness and form across full seasons, and eventually a departure from United in 2024 without ever having cemented himself as the world-class striker that debut goal promised. He moved to AEK Athens, showed flashes in Greece with 9 goals in 24 appearances, then joined Monterrey in Mexico by September 2025. At 30, he's now a rotation player in Liga MX, 0 goals in 12 league appearances. He touched something close to elite. His fingers grazed it. He never held on. Ronaldo Nazario complicates any conversation about decline because even in diminished form, he produced at a rate most strikers would sacrifice everything to achieve. He won the Ballon d'Or twice, in 1997 at just 21 years old, making him the youngest winner in history, and again in 2002 after scoring 8 goals at the World Cup, including both in the final against Germany. Between those 2 peaks came the knee injuries that robbed football of what might have been the greatest forward career ever witnessed. The 1999 injury against Lazio was catastrophic. The images of him on the ground, clutching his knee, knowing, you could see it in his face, that something fundamental had broken. He missed nearly 3 full years of elite football during what should have been his physical prime. The explosive acceleration that had made him unstoppable at Barcelona and Inter Milan, the ability to go from standing still to full speed in a single stride, was gone forever. Yet at Real Madrid, Even with the weight fluctuations that made him a target for criticism, even with knees held together by surgical intervention and willpower, he still delivered. He scored a hat-trick against Manchester United at Old Trafford in a Champions League quarter-final, and the home fans gave him a standing ovation. They knew what they were watching. Even the diminished version was extraordinary. The what-if with Ronaldo isn't about whether he had a great career. He absolutely did, with 2 World Cups, multiple league titles, and records that still stand. It's about the years stolen by injury, the version of him we only glimpsed before his body started failing. He won 2 Ballon d'Ors and still feels like unfulfilled potential. That's how transcendent his peak was. At first glance, Kaká, Götze, Martial, and Ronaldo Nazario don't belong in the same sentence. But they all touched something elite. They all had it taken from them, by injury, by circumstance, by the cruel mathematics of bodies that wouldn't cooperate with the talent they housed. Level 5. The stark decline. Michael Owen won the 2001 Ballon d'Or at 22 years old. He'd scored 24 goals for Liverpool, added a UEFA Cup, FA Cup, and League Cup to his trophy cabinet, and produced a hat-trick against Germany in Munich, a 5-1 demolition that remains one of England's greatest away performances. At 22, he had everything. The pace was electric, the finishing was clinical, the future was limitless. The problem was, his body had already started betraying him. Owen first tore his hamstring at 19, an injury that kept him out for 5 months and, as he later acknowledged, compromised his career from that moment forward. Back then, surgery wasn't standard practice. The tendon reattached on its own, leaving him with 3 tendons in one hamstring and 2 in the other. His body spent the next decade overcompensating, and the injuries cascaded. A move to Real Madrid promised prestige, but delivered limited playing time behind Ronaldo and Raúl. Then came Newcastle, where his metatarsal broke on New Year's Eve 2005. He returned just in time for the 2006 World Cup, where his ACL ruptured against Sweden after just 1 minute on the pitch. Owen scored important goals throughout, crucial strikes for Newcastle and Manchester United, but the player who had terrorized defenders with pure pace was gone long before he retired in 2013. He admitted to being petrified of running into channels in his final years, knowing his body would punish him for it. Owen's Ballon d'Or victory should have been the start of a decade at the top. Instead, it marked something closer to the middle of his best years. The cruel irony of building your game around pace is that pace leaves first and fastest. By 30, he was a squad player. By the end, he was a memory. Alexandre Pato arrived at AC Milan in 2007 as the most exciting teenage striker in world football. He'd broken Pelé's record as the youngest scorer in a FIFA competition, and Milan paid 24 million euros to secure him before he turned 18. The next 2 years suggested they'd bought a future Ballon d'Or winner. Pace, finishing, movement, and an instinct for the big occasion that produced goals against Barcelona and Real Madrid in the Champions League. Then the injuries started, and they never stopped. Muscular problems that wouldn't heal properly, comebacks interrupted by new setbacks. The explosive sprints that had made him deadly became liabilities. Every time he accelerated, his body punished him for it. By 2013, aged just 23, he was back in Brazil with Corinthians, his European career effectively over before it had properly begun. The subsequent years brought stints at Sao Paulo, Chelsea, where he played so little most fans forgot he'd signed, Villarreal, and clubs in China and the United States. Pato himself has made peace with what happened, but the gap between what he showed at 18, the goals, the fearlessness, the certainty that he would become one of the greats, and what his career became, represents one of the starkest declines of the Golden Boy era. Owen and Pato share the same cruel arithmetic. Both built their games around pace. Both had that pace destroyed by bodies that couldn't sustain it. You could watch their declines in real time, game by game, the gap between what they were and what they'd become growing wider with every season. Level 6. The Collapse. Mario Balotelli won the 2010 Golden Boy during his breakout years at Inter Milan. He was 20, with all the talent in the world, the technique, the strength, the audacity to attempt things other players wouldn't consider. 2 years later, he set up Aguero's title-winning goal with seconds remaining. He'd scored over 20 Premier League goals across 2 seasons, destroyed Germany at Euro 2012, and seemed positioned to become one of the game's dominant strikers. Then everything fell apart. At Milan, at Liverpool with 4 goals in 28 appearances, at Nice, at Marseille, Balotelli became synonymous with wasted potential. The controversies, the training ground issues, the inability to maintain fitness. He's been drifting through lower leagues ever since, his Genoa contract ending in 2025. The talent still appears occasionally, like a ghost, but the trajectory from golden boy to journeyman is complete. Andriy Shevchenko won the 2004 Ballon d'Or as the complete striker. AC Milan's talisman, Serie A's most feared forward. At 29, with 175 goals for Milan behind him, he should have been entering his greatest years. Chelsea paid £30 million in 2006. The transfer was Roman Abramovich's personal project. He wanted Shevchenko badly enough to override Jose Mourinho's reservations. What happened next remains one of football's genuine mysteries. He wasn't injured. He wasn't old. He arrived at Stamford Bridge and simply couldn't play football at anything approaching his previous level. His goals dried up almost immediately. A loan return to Milan produced 0 Serie A goals. He finished at Dynamo Kiev without ever explaining what had happened. Some collapses you can explain. Shevchenko's defies explanation to this day. What unites Balotelli and Shevchenko is the totality of the fall. They were among the best in the world, then they weren't. The distance between those two states was measured in months, not years. Level 7. The Tragedy. Matthias Sammer won the 1996 Ballon d'Or after leading Germany to the European Championship and anchoring Borussia Dortmund's Bundesliga title defense. At 29, playing as a libero, the last great sweeper in football's tactical evolution, he was the best defender on the planet. He won the Champions League with Dortmund the following season. Then his knee gave out. 3 more Bundesliga appearances, that's all. He retired in 1998 at 30 years old. No gradual decline, no soft fade, just a sudden, complete ending. One day, he was the best defender in world football. Then, he wasn't a footballer at all. Sammer reinvented himself as a manager, winning another Bundesliga title with Dortmund. But his playing career lasted 18 months after the Ballon d'Or ceremony. The trophy that should have marked the beginning of his greatest years marked the beginning of the end. Ronaldinho won back-to-back FIFA World Player of the Year awards, adding the Ballon d'Or in 2005. At 25, playing for Barcelona, he was the most entertaining footballer on earth, possibly ever. In November 2005, Real Madrid fans gave him a standing ovation at the Bernabeu, only the second Barcelona player ever to receive one after Maradona. 20 months later, he couldn't start. The nightclub in his house, the training sessions missed, the parties that extended from weekends into weeks. What remains undeniable is that a player with more natural talent than almost anyone in football history simply stopped applying it. Not because he couldn't, because he chose not to. Milan signed him in 2008. He produced moments. The talent was too vast to vanish completely, but the consistency was gone. By 31, he was back in Brazil with Flamengo, then smaller clubs, then retirement, then a Paraguayan prison. The gap between Ronaldinho's ceiling and his endpoint represents the most dramatic waste of ability football has witnessed. He could have been the greatest of all time. He chose to let most of it go. Sammer's knee betrayed him. He had no choice. Ronaldinho's curse was self-administered. He had every choice in the world. He made the wrong ones. The Ballon d'Or and the Golden Boy freeze a moment. They say, "This is the peak. This is the promise." And for most recipients, that frozen moment becomes exactly what it claims, the apex from which everything afterward descends. Messi won 8 Ballon d'Ors. Ronaldo won 5. They proved immunity exists. For everyone else, the question has never been whether decline will come, only how far, how fast, and how much it hurts to watch.